Hello and welcome to this week's episode of Speaking About Speaking. And as you can see from the screen, I have the fantastic Phil Dorr with me. Welcome, Phil.
Hi, Jackie. Good to see you.
And you. Phil is a director at We Are Whanau advisory and former CFO of Gymshark, which is, fascinating for lots of people out there. So I'm looking forward to digging deep with you, Phil, on all of that. But just to say that we may well have some comments. So if you are out there watching or listening, even if you're watching on the replay, actually, you are more than welcome to leave us a comment or a question. Or if you want to join in live, then put your comments in the comment section, and we'll show them and hopefully get to answer them. So, Phil, tell us a little bit about how you got started, because what fascinates me about you, and we are total transparency, we know each other through friendships, through my sister and your lovely wife Angie, and we've known each other for a few years. But what fascinates me is that when we first met, you had been working you're a chartered accountant, working in a business for like 28 years, and then suddenly you move over to this young, up and coming, incredible company that is Gymshark. How? Why? How did that come about?
How did it come about? The sliding doors moment was actually in a pub in Birmingham in 1979 when I bumped into a guy called Paul Richardson. And it was through that meeting Paul that eventually in 2015, a lot happened between 1979 and 2015, too much to go into unless you've got about 3 or 4 hours, that Paul started to talk to me about these two guys that he'd met at the gym, which is David Lloyd in Bromsgrove, and it was Ben Francis and his then business partner, Lewis Morgan. And they needed an accountant, so I was introduced to Ben, and that's how it all started. But really when I met Steve Hewitt, who was to become the CEO of Gymshark, the world changed for me, and my career path completely changed at that point in time.
Yeah. Well, thinking about it, Ben Francis probably wasn't even born in 1979.
He would have, he hadn't. It was another 13 years before he was born. So yeah, but it's just, you look back, and it's those sliding door moments, as I say, that if Paul and I hadn't walked into that pub that night in 1979, then none of this would have happened at all. Yeah. And I'm a firm believer that you have to treat everybody with respect, and you have to be, I think, nice. Being nice and niceness is an underrated quality, and I try to do that for everybody that I meet, and just be open for a conversation.
I absolutely agree with you there, and there's not enough niceness in business, is there, Phil? And I have this conversation with my dad, and you know my dad.
Mm-hmm.
And he is just one of the nicest people ever. And I truly believe that he, like yourself, got to a place of huge success by being nice. And then there's nothing wrong with that. It's such as you say, an underrated quality.
There's a perception among some people that you have to be successful. To be successful in business, you have to be ruthless and, should we say, nasty. But I've found quite the opposite, actually. And working with the Gymshark team, but it's Steve Hewitt in particular, you find that you get the best from people from building a culture, empowering people. That's the big thing.
Yeah, I love that, and I want to come on to that stay humble ethos that Steve Hewitt brought to Gymshark. But just to go back a little bit on the challenge of it, at a time when we're same sort of age, at a time when you sort of are looking at maybe slowing down, and you've been in a business, you've been a partner in your firm for all of those years. Was there not part of you that was slightly fearful about stepping into a completely new challenge?
I've always believed that you've got to challenge yourself. If you don't challenge yourself, you're never going to learn, you're never going to progress. I remember years ago when I was in practice going to see a potential client, and I'm giving him the normal sales thing. I've been doing this for years, lots of experience. And he floored me by saying, it means nothing. He said, if you've done the same thing day in, day out. You've got one day's experience in years. And that kind of stuck with me, that you've got to look to push yourself out of your comfort zone, because that's the way that you'll actually learn new skills. I mean, speak about speaking. I'm not, believe it or not, I'm not a natural speaker at all, and it fills me with trepidation, and something like this does. But you've got, and the only way you're going to get better at doing something is to actually do it.
Yeah.
And be afraid of actually failing, or not failing, it not working. Learn from that experience and move on from that. And I've been a fan of, actually, throughout my career, although my career has been, it was not boring in many ways, being a chartered accountant, because we are, until I joined Gymshark. Looking back, I did challenge myself all the time to better myself and increase my knowledge. And even now, I mean, even at my advanced years, I still believe that you've got to get up every day and try and learn something new.
Absolutely. Every day is a school day. I believe that, truly. Absolutely do. So then going to Gymshark and working with Steve, when did you meet Steve Hewitt? Were you already at I mean, how did that connection?
I met Ben probably around June or July 2015, and it was not long after that I met Steve. And to say we got on like a house on fire is an understatement. You identify with people's values, and our value set was exactly the same. And we just worked very, very well together, as he was CEO and I was the external accountant at that point, just helping the business to get back onto an even keel financially in terms of its financial records. It was a successful business even back then, but just on a much, much smaller scale, with great growth aspirations. And I helped Steve with that. My firm, we were a firm of accountants that dealt with small and medium-sized enterprises. Gymshark outgrew us, and you have to know your limitations as a firm. They were opening an office in Hong Kong and Mauritius. They wanted to open in America. We were based in Wolverhampton. Not a great deal of experience of dealing with that. So we had an adult conversation about, you need a larger firm to act for Gymshark. And that's when Steve said, but we still want you involved, and would I become the CFO? Which it was a difficult decision, but an extremely easy decision to make, because Gymshark, it's a unicorn. It's also, I've never experienced another business like it in all my years in the profession. And I doubt whether, well, I certainly won't, but I doubt whether another Gymshark will come along, certainly in my lifetime or in generations. It was really a right place, right time, right product, right people, and a bit of luck as well thrown into it to make it as it was.
It's an incredible story, an incredible success story. To explain a little bit about what is a unicorn business, because it is a term that seems to have become, it's been around relatively recent.
A unicorn is a business that has a valuation of over $1 billion rather than pounds. At the time that Gymshark got unicorn status, which was in August 2020, it was actually valued at $1.4 billion, so 1.1 billion pounds. But the other fairly unique thing about Gymshark is that a lot of fast-growing companies have to go and borrow money, raise venture capital, etc., to grow the business. Gymshark was actually only the second company in the United Kingdom that had got to unicorn status without having to raise any external capital, because it actually has an extremely simple business model. I do simplify it a lot, but it is a simple business model. We designed gymwear, we had it manufactured, we put it into a warehouse or warehouses, sold it online. You don't sell on credit. So if you get your margins right and you get the pricing right, then you'll be cash generative. So you don't need to raise funds. So that was the interesting thing. That was the great thing about the business model, and that's how it expanded. And it resonated with our demographics, the market that we wanted to target, the community, which was 16 to 30-year-olds who, when I was their age, you finished work, you went to the pub. A lot of them, they're a bit more health conscious, and they'll go to the gym. So the gym became their way of socializing together. And they wanted to to go out and they wanted to do nice gym wear, and it was good stuff. It was different, and in particular for men who like to bodybuild, Ben designed, because he was doing the design, doing everything at first with Lewis, that he designed the stringer vests and things like Arnold Schwarzenegger would have worn at Gold's Gym in LA, and it's it just worked. It just worked.
I mean, it's incredible, isn't it? That, I mean, how much of that billion are you responsible for?
I'm just one. I was one member of the team. Steve, the two key people were Steve Hewitt and Ben Francis. Ben Francis, for having the self-awareness as a 23-year-old to say, I can't do this. I don't know what I don't know. So asking Steve to step in as CEO, which he did for a 6-year period, and effectively Ben then sat at his knee and learned how to become a CEO in the future. Exactly the right thing to do. And so those are the two key people. And what Ben allowed Steve to do was build a team around him. I was one member of that team. There were lots of other people involved as well. And as I say, it was all of us coming together, and we all contributed to help the growth of Gymshark. It wasn't just anything to do with me.
I was being a little bit facetious, but yeah, I think you can take some of the credit.
Thank you.
But I think, you know, the self-awareness, as you say, of that 23-year-old, apart from the fact that I think it's just gobsmacking that he was sat in his mum's living room with a sewing machine making vests, you know, for that, and that's turned into this unicorn. This is just, it's an incredible story. It really is. It is. And I also love the fact that obviously when Steve stepped in as CEO, that Ben then went into every single department and learnt as head of marketing, head of, you know, whatever, the manufacturing and all of those things. So, I mean, that's really quite self-aware for a young man, isn't it, really?
It's the way to get to know a business, is to actually go in there and do it. And some things he was really good at, and some things that, you know, I wouldn't have had him in the finance team, I'll be honest. Tell him that. But, you know, on things like products, he was, you know, I mean, back then he was making products for himself and what he would like. And then it went into women's wear. So because it was a menswear brand at first, then went into women's wear and employed designers to, you know, make the seamless leggings and the various things and the patterns, and just make it uniquely. So you could look at something, you don't need to see the shark's head. You'd know that's Gymshark just by looking at it. Yeah.
And then that influencer marketing as well, which had hardly really been done, not to that kind of extreme before, you know, that started something completely new in marketing, didn't it?
It did. And Ben was probably one of the leaders in that. I mean, in 2013, when the business had been going about a year, and they went to Body Power, which is a powerlifting exhibition based at the NEC in Birmingham, and they went along and just changed the blueprint of how people went to those events. There were all these young lads in stringer vests, and they had gym equipment there, and they spent all their money flying over a couple of influencers. Now, these are bodybuilding athletes that the bodybuilding community would know, but they would mean nothing to me. They came along and everybody was queuing up at the Gymshark stand to meet these influencers. So Ben knew them. Ben and the team he'd got at the time, they knew that they were onto something by using these influencers. These influencers had got you know hundreds of thousands of followers on Facebook. It was Facebook back then. Of course, it's now Instagram and TikTok, because Facebook's for older people, so I'm told by younger people. But it's back then it was Facebook, and it was really, they knew that was special. But then I think it was 2015 or 2016, they did their first pop-up store in New York and hired like an empty store, decked it out, got Nikki Blacketta, who was one of the female influencers, to come along, and they had a 1.5 mile queue around the block for people wanting to get into the Gymshark store to meet the influencer. And they knew then that this is the way that we're going to. So it's building up the community and the buzz. You put that out again on social media, and it's not just the influencer, it's the fact that what's this? What's the buzz about Gymshark? And so that's kind of it just like a steamroller then. It just rolled and rolled and rolled and grew and grew. It was great to watch and amazing to be involved with, to see this all happening. And I joined in early 2019 full time as CFO, and experienced the best 4 years of my working career. It was just an amazing time, and I learned more in the 4 years of being, on the client side, where you're having to make decisions and stand by them, than I did in nearly 30 years in the profession. Although the 30 years probably gave me the experience to actually know what to do and how to act within the business itself.
Yeah. And I was lucky enough to come up and work with you. I think it's 2021 now. I think it was a while ago. And just such a lovely place to be. Such a fabulous feeling in that building. Sort of everybody on a level kind of thing. Everybody was all, as you say, part of a team. There was no sort of one standout. Everybody was there working together.
Yeah, Ben wanted it to be like a university campus.
Yeah.
And so no one had an office. No one. Not even Steve as CEO. And so you were sitting in open plan. We also had a restaurant there where you weren't allowed to eat at your desk, so you had to go into refuel at lunchtime, and you'd sit along long tables. It was like Harry Potter, the dining tables, and you'd sit and you'd mix with other people, and it was just I said it was a great atmosphere there. It really was. Although it did change with COVID, because obviously more people then began to work from home rather than come in the office, but the atmosphere was still great. Really good.
No, it was. You could feel that. And I love the ethos about stay humble.
Yes.
Again, going back to kindness and niceness, it's one of those words that's really underrated, and I think it's absolutely crucial. It's especially for a leadership team and their teams around them to have that as an ethos.
I think all businesses ought to show humility and be humble. Because if you aren't humble, you think you've reached the pinnacle, and you've always got to look to say you've got to challenge, you've got to improve yourself all the time. And when we were billed as a unicorn, we were a unicorn. You can just imagine that there were lots of people talking to us about wanting to work with us and just saying how brilliant we were. And we genuinely would look for, well, actually, we're maybe good at some things, but there's a lot of things that we know can be improved, and that's the humility part of it, and staying humble, and that's extremely important in whatever business you're involved in, not just Gymshark. It's just I think being humble and showing humility is, again, it's a good personal quality to have, and I say just helps with business.
Yeah, absolutely. And when I came up to work with you guys, specifically with you, because you had some quite intimidating audiences to talk to via Zoom, if I remember rightly. And just explain to me what it was about the quality of the I don't want to keep using the word ethos. There must be another word of Gymshark that meant that they were happy for you to have that kind of to be working with someone like me on public speaking.
Again, you need to develop people, and if you haven't got, going back to the humility part of it again, I could say, well, I can do that, it's not a problem, but I'm not the professional. Maybe I'm okay with numbers, but I'm not a professional speaker. There are people such as yourself who are far better at teaching people how to, because most skills can be learned, and certainly with public speaking, the more you do it, hopefully the more confident you become, and you get better at it. And there was never any question that we would use somebody from outside to help us. Again, we've done that all the way through the Gymshark story, and the business I'm involved with now is helping hopefully fast-growing businesses as an external advisor. So they're buying in our services with that. So again, I'm glad there's lots of people out there that want to do that.
Yeah. And I think, as you say, it's very important to give people the opportunity to develop and train, and sort of confidence and communication is really important, I think. Was there any one thing that we went through together that you remember to this day?
Breathing beforehand to calm down and just stay calm, I think was the more than anything, and just preparing yourself for it. That's the thing as much as anything.
Yeah.
And some of the acting things that you got us to do, Jackie.
I do put people through some stuff that they find slightly uncomfortable, but I think that you kind of need to go there in order to just start freeing up your brain. Start playing. Lots of people get so wound up in what they have to do that they forget that actually they can enjoy it if they really want to. They can enjoy it.
If I the rare occasions when I do a speaking engagement, I actually I'd like to make it fun if I can. You have to gauge your audience, of course. It wouldn't work every single time, but I do like to make it fun if I can. If you can make it count, to see a fun subject.
Yeah. I do remember getting you to sing a song in your head as your walk-on song, which I can't remember what it was.
Oh, I can't remember what it was now either. It would have changed since then anyway.
Yeah,
it wouldn't be simply the best, because that wouldn't be humble, but it's
no, it wasn't simply the best. It was a good song. I can't remember what it was now. Anyway, so now you and Steve have sort of started, as you say, an advisory called We Are Whanau, and WH. I'm going to show people the screenshot of the website. So let's build your North Star. So this is Whanau, and it's a Maori word for family. Is that right?
Yeah, family and togetherness. And the North Star, you see the landing page, the picture is a flock of Canadian geese flying in formation. And what you should do if you're in business and you're in business together is you should visualize that you are a flock of Canadian geese flying together, because every bird in that V shape knows their job. The bird at the front will tire, and then another bird will know to move in and take the lead to give that particular bird a rest. But they're all flying in one direction. And so again, one of the things that we do, and it is one of Steve's specialities, is to go into businesses and draw out of them what their North Star is. Why are they in business? What are their aims? And it isn't simply to make a profit. It's more theoretical is the wrong word, but why are you actually in business? I mean, for now, our North Star is growth for good. Growth because we want to help businesses to grow, and for good is because we have made a commitment to raise money for a couple of our chosen charities, which is Birmingham Children's Hospital and St Basil's, which is a charity for young homeless people. And so that's our North Star, and that's what we're working towards. We're in business to make a profit, but that will enable us then to make the charitable donations as well.
Yeah.
And all of us, there are now 7 of us within the business, all with different skill sets, all work in different areas. And obviously I'm on the finance side. We're all working with different businesses throughout the UK and overseas as well, that to help them with some it is building their North Star and then helping them bring that to fruition. Others, it's just particular parts of their business. It's Steve and I talked about setting up the business long before we left Gymshark, that we wanted to do something, and we thought it'll be a couple of days a week, but it's kind of been full time. And
because I do vaguely remember having a conversation with you about retirement. I think you said, I am retiring from Gymshark, I think is what you said. And before I knew it, you were in this new post. But it sounds exciting.
But if you enjoy something, and I love meeting people, and I really, really enjoy helping people as well, and being an enabler, because that's as an accountant, that's what we do. We don't add up numbers. We enable people to fulfill their goals, be it in business or whatever. And that's my job. And I actually really enjoy that. And everyone within the company feels the same way and works in the same way, but just as I say, in different areas. Steve's the North Star man. He's the one that will go in and say and talk to management teams and draw out that part of it. And it's very, I tend to get involved at the back end, obviously, with looking at the commercials and the finances, but I have attended a North Star session. It was very, very interesting, getting people who think they are working together, and then actually you find out that they've all got different ideas about what they're actually working together about. Yeah. And it's only when they go, oh, okay, we need to start working in the same direction. Yeah. They're not working against each other, but maybe working in just slightly different angles rather than all pointing in the right direction.
Yeah, I think that's, the birds flying in that formation is a great analogy for that. It really works. But I do know, because I've seen how excited you get about numbers. So, I think that is something that's really important in a CFO, is that you've got someone there, a financial strategist that actually enjoys numbers. That actually, I could see it. They sort of light you up, which is kind of what you need.
For some people, it'll be words on a page that will. And for me, the numbers are words on a page. They just need translating into. Again, I'm a translator. I will take figures, and anyone can list a row of numbers. But what the skill is to take those numbers and provide the insight. What are those numbers actually telling us, and how can they help us with where we want to get to in the future? And that's the bit I enjoy, and the commercial side of it. Yeah. And going from when I was in practice as an advisor, I'd be saying to, if you were a client, Jackie, I'd say, look, here's your choices, here's the pros, here's the cons, but you have to take responsibility for the decision. When you're client side, of course, the CFO, you have to make the decision, because people are looking at you and saying, what do we do, Phil, in this situation? Yeah. And I actually quite enjoyed that. And I got a buzz from that.
Yes. Excellent. I just think you must be inundated with companies that are coming to you wanting to be the next Gymshark. Have you kind of been inundated?
Yeah, we again, there've been one or two fitness companies that have approached, but of course we can't, because we would never do anything that would harm the legacy of Gymshark. It's just we just wouldn't do it, and we have to explain to people that Gymshark was unique, and it almost, don't worry about becoming a unicorn at all, because just help grow the business. You can still, I mean, let's say the business is only valued at £500 million, or £250 million, or £10 million. Do the best that you can with it. And just, again, don't get fixated on becoming, a label, the $1 billion valuation of the business.
Yeah. I mean, it's you need to enjoy what you're doing. And if you're so worried about building that, then you're not going to enjoy the process of being in your business.
No, not at all.
No, not at all. And I know you are working with a company down here in the New Forest, which is quite exciting.
Yes.
A local company.
Passenger, yeah.
Ooh, very good.
Passenger clothing. It's a clothing and accessories outdoor brand. And I'm actually their CFO on a part-time basis. We got involved with that business. It was just, it's a nice business. It's a lovely business. Even more important, Jackie, really like the people that I work with there, and their values. We identify with those, and it's just it's a good place to work, and in a fast-growing business as well. And even better, it's 7 miles from my house here, so it's great.
Excellent. Well, if they need a speaking coach,
yes, indeed. Absolutely.
Brilliant. Well, we are coming to the end of our 30 minutes. I can't believe that's nearly over and done with. I did, and I do ask a question at the end of every session, which you can answer if you so wish, but you don't have to. But it is, what, in your opinion, makes a good speaker good and a bad speaker suck?
A good speaker is one who is obviously confident, but that confidence comes from preparation. And preparation shows respect for the audience that you're speaking to, because people are taking their time to listen to what you've got to say. So you have got to pay them the respect of preparing properly to speak and rehearse, and etc. What makes a bad speaker? The opposite of that. Somebody who thinks they can wing it and doesn't prepare. You know yourself that even to talk for a few minutes takes a lot of preparation and thinking about and rehearsal, and I think that's and stay calm about the whole thing as well. Try and do that.
Yeah, absolutely agree with all of that. And actually, I think I watched a video before I came up to Gymshark, because I obviously did a bit of research before I came up to you, and found a video that Ben had done where he says basically he felt it was his duty to learn how to speak properly, because it was, his audience could feel his awkwardness. And so as an introvert, he felt the need to do them justice, to give them the respect that they deserved. He should learn how to speak properly.
Ben, when I first met him, 2015, he was 23 years old. He was painfully shy. I mean, painfully shy. He was not struggled, but he couldn't articulate particularly well speaking to me. Yeah. But having seen him grow over the years, and he is like a sponge, and he will push himself into situations that he's not naturally comfortable in, like public speaking, and does very well. And when we did the deal with General Atlantic and we got the unicorn valuation, you couldn't turn on the TV or the radio without having to listen to Ben Francis's dulcet tones. And he did incredibly well. I mean, he really did with that. And that just comes from practice and practice and practice.
Yes. And as you say, put yourself out of your comfort zone, challenge yourself. I'm doing a talk tomorrow evening on failing, all of my failures, and what I've learned from them. And actually, it's that, if you don't fail, you don't try, you don't fail. And if you don't fail, you don't learn. So it
isn't failure though, Jack. It just didn't work.
Yeah.
And you just take the learnings from the fact that it didn't work, and then move on to the next one.
Yes. There is no failure, only feedback.
Correct.
And we'll leave it there. Well done. That was brilliant. Thank you so much for being here. I really, really, really appreciate your time. Thank you so much. Okay. And if there is anybody out there listening, watching, then and you're watching on the replay, do please leave a question, ask us anything you like, and we will endeavour to get back to you. But thank you so much for being here, Phil. I really appreciate it. And I'll see you guys next week.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.